Hey guys, I'm the MMA Breakdown, and today we're doing predictions for UFC Fight Night 94, Poirier versus Johnson. UFC 203 just finished up, and I was 9 for 10. Only fight I got wrong was I Kohea, and I felt that I should have won that fight. Should have been a perfect night, but 9 for 10. I was 63 overall for the event, which you won't see on here, but I'm going to do another video showing my pick'em rankings for all of the fights since International Fight Week, because I haven't done it for a while, including this event. But I was 1,048 for the event, which you can see, or overall now I'm 1,048, as you can see there, and 9 for 10. Can you see that? Yeah, 9 for 10. All right. Fight Night 94, Poirier versus Johnson. I think this fight card is just awesome, top to bottom. This is what a fight night should be. Just a ton of fun matchups, a ton of fights that should produce a lot of action. Really love this lineup. All right, starting on Fight Pass. At featherweight, Skelly versus Maximo Blanco. I'm going to take Skelly. He has the grappling edge. Blanco can wrestle, but I definitely don't see him winning a grappling fight against Skelly. Skelly's very crafty, both with getting takedowns and controlling guys on the ground, and he's really good at taking the back. And he can take a lot of punishment on the feet. That's the one area where I think Blanco will have a big advantage. Skelly is not a good striker. He's very hittable. Kevin Souza really was putting heat on him, almost had him out of there. And Skelly, he's very durable, is able to survive. And then off of his first takedown attempt in the fight, or his first successful takedown attempt, he was able to take the back and submit him. So I think he can withstand any barrage that Blanco's going to put on him, and Blanco is going to be a way better athlete, much more hand speed, and just the better striker. You know, had pretty dominant striking performances over Dan Hooker and knocked out Mike De La Torre very quickly in that fight. But I do think Skelly will weather that storm, and then from there be able to out-grapple him. And Blanco has had fights where he's been out-grappled, had a pretty lazy back-and-forth grappling match against Felipe Arantes, and Andy Ogle, I think, even took a round off of him by controlling him on the ground. So taking Skelly for, I'm going to say, a decision win. All right, at welterweight, Eric Montano versus Randy Brown. Montano does not impress me. Didn't impress me on tough. I think he got I think it was a submission win over Vernon Ramos. And then his fight against Enrique Marin, which I didn't think he won. He didn't impress me in that fight either. It was really close, but a very uneventful fight. Neither guy really did anything meaningful. And Randy Brown, while he hasn't looked great and got finished by Graves in his last fight, I think he has shown a bit of promise. Even against Graves, when he was put on his back, I thought he had a pretty active guard, at least was trying to submit Graves from his back with triangle attempts. And then against Dwyer, struggled early, struggled with the size and the striking, but did have some moments where he was able to beat him in the clinch and take the back on the feet. So I think Brown just has promise, and Montano has not looked good, and more importantly, has not looked good against a low level of competition. A lot of the tough guys have been doing very well. The Tough Line America guys have been doing really well in the UFC, but not the ones that Montano has faced. At least not, Vernon Ramos, who he beat in the house. He got knocked out in his UFC debut. And Marin, I think, probably won that North Cut fight. But yeah, I don't think Montano's fought a high level of competition and hasn't looked good. Brown has struggled, but does have a UFC win, and I thought still showed some promise in his loss to Graves. So I'm taking Brown here. And I'll say decision because he's still a really green guy. Putting together his game. I don't know if he's quite at the level where he's going to be finishing people, but yeah, I like Brown. All right, the FS1 prelim card, and let's start with Antonio Carlos Jr. versus Leonardo Augusto Guimaraes. I assume this is going to be on the FS1 card, but on Wikipedia it's listed separately. And I'm taking Antonio Carlos Jr. That fight, his loss to Daniel Kelly in his last fight, that was one of the craziest upsets I've ever seen in the UFC. And I picked Carlos, of course, going into that fight, and I said that Kelly had no chance of winning, and it was a very weird loss because Carlos had been looking really good before that. But I'm taking Carlos pretty comfortably. Guimaraes, he lost to Anthony Smith, and I just can't take a guy who lost to Anthony Smith, who I don't think is very good, against a guy who has had some impressive wins and not against great competition. But Carlos is a very aggressive grappler. Even against Kelly, had his back in that first round, couldn't submit him, but took him down and took his back immediately, and had him in that position for the entire first round. And he has not a very technical or refined striking game, but he is aggressive on the feet, and he's got a really aggressive grappling and submission game. Great at taking the back. Guimaraes seemed like a one-dimensional brawler against Smith and lost that fight. So I'm going to take Carlos Jr. here. I think he'll probably take him down and get a submission, as he was doing before his loss to Kelly. So I like Carlos Jr. by submission. At bantamweight, Alberto Quinonez versus Joey Gomez. Quinonez was the finalist from Tough Latin America 1, and I actually thought he won his finale fight against Alejandro Perez. Joey Gomez lost to Rob Font in his last fight, which was his UFC debut, and I didn't think he looked bad, but didn't really impress me or strike me as a really talented fighter. Rob Font is a decent prospect, so not a bad loss, but Font did finish him. I don't really feel like I have a good read on Gomez just from that Font fight, and might be the highest level of competition that Quinonez has faced. But I'm going to take Quinonez because I do like his game. I think he has been impressive, even if his one win over Leonardo Morales, who was the finalist, also from Tough Latin America 1, lost to Yair Rodriguez in the finale, but at featherweight, and then fought Quinonez at bantamweight. Quinonez took him down early in that fight in the first round, took his back and submitted him. And I thought he won his fight against Alejandro Perez, who has turned out to be a pretty solid prospect. Has a decent striking game. He's kind of long and lanky, uses his length well in his striking, knees from the clinch, kind of tall, lanky guy. Nothing super impressive about his striking, but pretty scrappy guy, and has that length to his striking, and then on the ground was very dominant against Morales. I think Gomez probably will be a stiff test for him, being an American fighter, but Perez is not bad and has gone on to do well. And I thought that Quinonez won that fight, so I'm not too concerned about his overall skill level. So I'm just going to take Quinonez. Like I said, I don't feel like I really know Gomez that well, but I think Quinonez is a pretty decent fighter. I'll take him, I guess, by decision. At welterweight, Augusto Montano versus Belal Muhammad. Augusto Montano, just not a guy who I can't see why he's in the UFC. They brought him over for that first Mexico card a couple years ago and got a win over. I don't even remember the guy's name. A guy I don't think has even fought again after that. But yeah, against Pendred looked terrible and lost to Pendred. That automatically tells you he's not a good fighter. And Belal Muhammad, he almost won that fight against Joe Ban. Probably could have had a 10-8 round in that third round. Just had a slow start, and Joe Ban was the more aggressive fighter early and was able to hit him with bigger shots. But that third round, Muhammad had figured him out and just had him circling the fence for that third round, and was really putting combinations together very well and just lighting him up on the feet. So I thought Muhammad was pretty impressive and for his UFC debut. So I think he's going to finish Montano here. I'm going to take Muhammad by TKO. At featherweight, Gabriel Benitez versus Sam Sicilia. This is kind of a tough matchup. Sam Sicilia, a brawler, just looking to throw haymakers and land the knockout punch, and doesn't really have any more subtlety or craft to his game. Has showed some wrestling in some of his fights, but he's not a very dominant wrestler. And Benitez, another tough Latin America fighter from season 2, I think. No, season 1. He looked good in his win over Clay Collard. Had solid boxing, and I think he's training out of AKA, so probably developing well. His finale fight before that Clay Collard fight against Humberto Brown really struggled with the size of Brown, was getting taken down. Eventually caught him with a guillotine, and Brown was a really low-level fighter, so that gives me concern that Sicilia might be able to out-wrestle him here. But on the feet, Sicilia has just been a guy that when he can't land that knockout punch, and when he's facing this more crafty, more technical strikers, he just gets eaten up. I mean, Cole Miller with the jab and the length destroyed him, dropped him on the feet, and then submitted him. He made Cole Miller look like an elite boxer, which Miller is not. Honey Jason was able to connect and find his chin a lot. Got knocked out by Honey Jason. And Katsunori Kakuno also was able to figure him out and hurt him on the feet. So I just can't trust Sicilia against a guy who has shown a pretty decent boxing game. Benitez did kind of get run over by Feely. I don't think Sicilia will be able to land that knockout strike in this fight. I think Benitez's boxing is too good, but I do worry about that wrestling. And Sicilia's definitely not as good as Feely, but Benitez has only fought a handful of times, and this could be a tougher test for him, I think. But I'm going to take Benitez. I don't like that striking game of Sicilia. He's been knocked out a couple times, but that wrestling will be interesting. So I'll take Benitez for a decision, but I do think there's a chance Sicilia wins. All right, and on to the main card. FS1 at lightweight, Chris Wade versus Islam Makhachev. This is a tough matchup to predict. Chris Wade, real solid wrestler, showed really good ground and pound against Mehdi Baghdad, was very aggressive once he got him down, pounded him out, and I think submitted him. Did he submit him or TKO him? Let me see. Submitted him, yeah. And other than that, he's had a couple of not very dominant decisions. Zhang Peng, Christos Giagos had a submission in his first fight against Carrizosa. And his last fight against Habalov, facing a veteran, he really struggled. And that was kind of, not that surprising, but I would have expected, kind of a rising prospect to have a little more success than that, but Habalov was pretty easily able to out-wrestle him and just push the pace on him, outland him. Islam Makhachev, I know a lot of people are really hyped on him, but I don't really know what to think of him right now. Had a good performance against Leo Kuntz in his debut. Submitted him, got him down easily and took the back, submitted him. He looks like a capable grappler. And then against Adriano Martins, who's a very underrated fighter and I would even say an elite fighter in the division. Got knocked out by him, but he's a great boxer. So on the feet, I don't really know who will have the advantage. Neither guy's a really good striker yet. I think Wade might, have a little more of a consistent boxing game. But on the ground, that's where I'm really kind of getting stuck. Makhachev looks like a great back taker, and Wade's kind of your classic controlling, heavy top position American wrestler. And Makhachev being from Dagestan, he's going to get that. He's going to get that recognition as a strong wrestler and grappler. But until I see it from him, I just can't assume that he's Nurmagomedov Jr. So I'm going to take the guy who has showed really dominant wrestling. I think it's going to kind of win out here against a guy who's more green in the UFC and who hasn't really faced a lot of guys yet. And his one win was not against a very good fighter, and none of Wade's wins are against good fighters either. And he struggled against Zhang Peng. That was not a good fight. That was a very ugly fight. But I'm going to take Wade. I'm going to go with the American wrestler here, but I think it's a tough one to call. Makhachev might be the better grappler, might be the better back take artist. So, yeah, tough one, but I'll take Wade. I'll say it by decision. All right, at welterweight, Juan Carneiro versus Kenny Robertson. I like Carneiro. Robertson, has been on this run where, he's really made a lot with his limited athleticism, but his wins are kind of questionable a little bit, some of them. Sultan Aliyev going for that spinning back fist, and Robertson caught him in the middle of that, knocked him out. I thought he won the Ben Saunders fight, but lost that decision. And then his other wins over Eldemar Alcantara, Thiago Perpetuo, those guys are at least Perpetuo definitely not a UFC mainstay, and Alcantara, I don't even know if he's in the UFC anymore, but if he is, barely a UFC level talent. So I think the buck kind of stops here for Robertson. He's a tough guy. He's really scrappy. He has a grinding style of wrestling, and on the feet, not technical, but can hit hard. I think he dropped Saunders in that third round. But I think Carneiro is going to be able to get this to the ground. I don't think he's going to get caught up in a striking game with Robertson, and if he did, I think he's the better athlete, could probably catch Robertson. And if Robertson takes him down, I do not think he has the kind of wrestling to stifle Carneiro's grappling game, who looked really fluid, very reactive when Munoz tried to take him down. Was able to reverse it and easily take his back and submit him. So I like Carneiro here to get it done on the ground. Brunson, who is a good wrestler, was able to just take him down, completely nullify his game and pound him out. But Robertson does not have that athleticism, and I don't think he has that wrestling or that level of ground and pound. So I'm taking Carneiro by submission. At bantamweight, Alejandro Perez versus Albert Morales, a debuting fighter. Albert Morales is Alejandro Perez. We already talked about him a bit, but the winner of Tough Latin America 1 did not think he won his fight. That fight against Quinonez. Kind of a one-dimensional striker back then. Just going for big overhands. Not a very diverse or varied striking game. It didn't show any grappling, but since then I think has really improved, and I think he's also out of AKA, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, he's developing really well. Against Scott Jorgensen was really using the leg kicks well. Really hurt Jorgensen with those. His striking is looking crisper. Had that really bad loss to Patrick Williams, but that was before the Jorgensen fight. And then in his last fight again against Ian Entwistle, I thought Entwistle was going to be able to submit him because Patrick Williams came right out and blitzed him, knocked him out, and then choked him out. But he was able to defend against the leg locks of Entwistle, and from there just positionally dominated him and pounded him out. So the guy's adding skills. He's getting better. I like him. I don't know Morales. Won't make a pick here for this one. But yeah, I like Perez. I like his development. All right, at lightweight, Evan Dunham versus Rick Glenn. Rick Glenn, I think, was he the WSOF champion? I really don't know. I don't think I've ever seen him fight. If I have, I certainly don't remember. I really am disappointed we don't get to see the original matchup, Dunham versus Abel Trujillo. That was a really compelling matchup. I was going to pick Dunham there, but I thought that Trujillo would be a big favorite early in the fight. But yeah, Dunham, a very underrated fighter. This guy could have easily won a decision against Rafael Dos Anjos. And has only lost to the very best guys at lightweight, Cerrone, Barbosa, and in his last fight against Lozon, his boxing looked really solid. Put a boxing clinic on Lozon, which happens a lot to Lozon, but is still very dominant. And then showed a very good control grappling game against Pearson, totally shut him down. But he really struggles with those athletic guys like Barbosa, like Cerrone, that can really put pressure on him early, who are explosive and can come forward. I don't know Rick Glenn. I think it'll probably be a competitive fight. But yeah, I don't know. At middleweight, Uriah Hall versus Derek Brunson. This is going to be my big pick for this card. Probably the one that most people are not going to agree with, but that I feel pretty confident about. I'm taking Brunson here. For one thing, Hall has, this is going to be a matchup that he hasn't really faced since Gastelum, and yeah, Gastelum was able to hit some takedowns on him. That was still a really close fight. Obviously, Hall has developed a lot since then, but Brunson is very athletic. He's a strong wrestler. Has not shown any cardio problems. I think he's going to out wrestle Hall. Also, not just wrestle him, but I think Brunson has the striking to at least close the distance on Hall, touch him up a bit, and set up his takedowns with the striking. If he can't take him down, which I don't see happening, or if he just chooses to strike with him, then yeah, I think Hall definitely has the advantage and will probably win, will probably knock him out. Brunson got very reckless against Sam Alvey. If he does that against Hall, I can definitely see him getting countered, getting caught, and put out. He was also very aggressive against Ed Herman, and he has power. Brunson does, but I don't think he can come out and blitz Hall on the feet. Hall is obviously definitely the more lethal striker and just has way more technique to a striking game. But yeah, I think Hall just struggles with guys that put consistent offense on him. Robert Whitaker really pressured him early, and Whitaker faded in that third round. Hall came back and won that third round, and that is where I think Brunson will lose this fight if he does. We haven't seen cardio problems from him, but Hall, he makes adjustments by the third round, and I think that's where he could really have figured out Brunson and knock him out. But yeah, even Whitaker took him down once in that fight early and just really had the advantage on the feet, pushed a higher pace than Hall. Rafael Natal, just coming forward and taking Hall's space away, fighting him in the clinch, was able to win a really slow, grinding decision against him. Brunson is a way better athlete than Natal, and I think if he's just careful on the feet, he's going to be able to close the distance, take him down, and really wear out Hall, who I don't think has any interest in really fighting off of his back or fighting off a really athletic, strong wrestler for 3 rounds. Even on the feet, Hall is sometimes way too patient and unwilling to throw. So yeah, I'm taking Brunson by decision. All right, lightweight, the main event, Dustin Poirier versus Michael Johnson. This is a really fun matchup. I think the biggest factor in this fight for me is that Poirier is very dangerous, has knockout power, and Michael Johnson has shown knockout power, but not recently, and I don't think he's as durable. Or I don't think he's durable enough to eat the shots that Poirier, I think, will land on him. Against Nate Diaz, Johnson got off to a great start, but he's just wasn't devastating enough with his striking. Wasn't dishing out enough damage to Diaz, and Diaz, once he was able to adjust and started landing his shots, the volume overwhelmed Johnson, and just the power too. Johnson was staggered by a lot of those shots, and you could see he was hurt, by that second round, and was still in the fight. Was not dropped, but was just not the same guy. Was really eating a lot of hard shots that really slowed him down and made him less confident, and he couldn't recover from that. So I think that Poirier, if not early, like he's been doing at lightweight, I think that at some point Poirier is probably going to catch him and put him out. And especially if it's a brawl like he did to Bobby Green, and just if he's able to fight in the pocket, make it close range fight. I really like his chances to hurt Johnson, but he was very reckless against Bobby Green. Johnson has power, and he's a technical fighter. If Poirier leaves himself open, there is a chance Johnson could catch him. Or if Poirier isn't able to finish him, really goes all out early, and Johnson's able to withstand that storm. I do think Johnson is a pretty significantly more technical striker, has the better footwork. Is just a more dynamic kickboxer than Poirier. I could see him outboxing him, out kickboxing him for a decision. Also, the wrestling, I think Poirier is a better MMA wrestler than Johnson, and he's used it more recently. You know, in his fight against Joe Duffy, he was really dominant with the wrestling. Michael Johnson does have a wrestling background, but we haven't seen it from him a lot in the UFC, and definitely not recently. And also, you know, about Johnson not being very powerful. You know, the Barboza fight, you know, I think it was a split decision, but even in that fight, didn't really hurt Barboza at any point, and that's a guy known for getting hurt by guys who can pressure him and come after him. I don't see him hurting Poirier. It was interesting. I saw the preview for this fight, and Johnson said he's going to go back to his old ways, be very aggressive, really look to finish. I don't think that's going to play out for him well. I mean, Poirier has insane power since moving to lightweight. It just seems like he's the better guy at winning that type of fight where both guys just meet in the middle and throw. So I like Poirier just being the more powerful striker. Slight chance that Michael Johnson is able to technically outbox him this is a main event, so 5 rounds. I don't really see that happening. If Poirier's too reckless, there's definitely a chance Johnson could catch him. I don't see Johnson out wrestling him. Poirier is also a really good submission fighter. Darce choke, and he has submissions. But I think if Poirier chooses to wrestle, he'll be better there too. So I'm taking Poirier. I think he catches Johnson at some point and knocks him out. And we've also seen Johnson just dominated by grapplers before. Miles Jury totally shut him down. He could not fight his way back to his feet on the ground, and was just getting taken down easily by Jury. Every time the fight was back on the feet. And then Reza Madadi, that infamous fight where Johnson was out grappled and submitted by Darce against Madadi. So he does have that deficiency in his game from some of his past fights. And I think Poirier, like I said, will have the wrestling advantage if he gets it there. Probably be able to submit Johnson. But yeah, I like Poirier by TKO. All right, guys, those are my predictions for UFC Fight Night 94. Thank you for watching. Follow me on Twitter. My link is in the description at MMA Breakdown 0. I will also have my video out for Fight Night 95, Cyborg versus Landsberg. Check the description for a link to that video. Thanks, guys. See you in the next one. Take care. Bye.